What NBA players really think of Anthony Edwards? While he may often be called the next coming of Kobe Bryant, Anthony Edwards shouldn't just be good on offense. We've seen the likes of Paul George, DeMar DeRozan, Devin Booker, and Jason Tatum trying their best to emulate Bryant, only for them to fall flat because they don't always compete on both ends of the floor. So if Ant-Man was going to be this generation's Mamba, he needed to be a good defender as well. The thing is that he's always been a great defender, capable of using his speed, lateral movement, strong body, and competitiveness to lock the best offensive players down. Speaking of the best offensive players, Kyrie Irving had this to say about Edwards.
Oh, he's great. He's great. He takes the challenge. When he first came into the league, that wasn't really something that he was trying to get into, even though he'll say that, I've been a defensive player my whole career. But when we first played and he first got drafted, you could see that he had the intangibles. He has the skill set to be one of the best on-ball defenders in our league.
One of the things that Kyrie noticed about Ant is that he had all of the physical tools to defend the greatest players in the league.
One like that, even as young, he slides his feet. He's very physical, and he takes that challenge very personal.
But the one thing that stands out about him is the fact that he likes to compete hard on that end of the floor. Everything starts with wanting to compete against the best.
He got a few stops. We look at each other, we wink at each other, a few possessions that he had on me, and that's what makes this league great. You can have those mini battles overall in the team scheme, but at the end of the day, it's about getting a win.
And a lot of players tend to forget that competing in mini one-on-one battles in the game also means stopping the opposing team's best player. In Edwards' case, he not only tries to score on you, but also wants to make life a living hell on the defensive end. Tyrese Halliburton, a special player himself, realized that Edwards was on another level when he showed that he was head and shoulders above the rest of his teammates on that star-laden Team USA roster.
What was the Ant experience like then? What is it like now? Can you talk about this? You've known him for a long time. You've been close to him for a long time. But can you talk about where he is now as a player?
Yeah, Ant is amazing. Like, the stuff that he does on the floor is ridiculous. Like, that first game against Germany where he just took over the whole second half, that was like the greatest performance I've ever seen in person.
Halliburton compared Edwards to none other than Kobe Bryant himself, and it's cool to hear a young all-star having nothing but great words for the Ant-Man. This isn't the first time Edwards has been compared to the late great Black Mamba, because there are glimpses of similarities between them. Sure, we know that Kobe is taller and longer. He also approaches the game with a lot more seriousness, but Ant-Man has the same kind of fearlessness and confident approach that we've seen from the likes of Kobe. He's also developed the same shot creation abilities that Bryant was known for throughout his legendary career. Austin Reeves also thinks that there's a little bit of Mamba in Edwards when he saw him taking a wild, tough shot against Germany.
I don't know if I knew he was that good. The Germany game in Abu Dhabi, when he just took over in the second half, I remember he made a baseline fade, like double pump. Everything went slow motion again, and I was just like, that might be one of the best shots I've ever seen in person. That was it was really impressive.
Speaking of players who have tried to be Kobe, in a game between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Boston Celtics earlier this season, Jason Tatum was impressed by the growth that Edwards showed on the court.
And one of my favorite guys to watch in the league, how explosive and talented he is, and continues to get better each and every year. And I just like how he competes. He competes on both ends of the floor. And he made some big plays for his team tonight, especially down the stretch.
As Tatum said, Ant competes on both ends of the court. That means that everyone in the league recognizes that the Ant-Man is willing to compete against everyone on the court and has the mindset of a killer. Don't let that confident smile fool you, because Edwards wants to take down every star he's up against. And this was clear in the first round of the playoffs when the Minnesota Timberwolves took on the Phoenix Suns. Now, one of the most interesting storylines regarding this series was that it was a showcase of current and old stars versus a rising star. The Suns had Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. On the other hand, the Wolves had a superstar in Edwards, flanked by 7-footers Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. While the big men did their jobs in this series to perfection, the spotlight was on Ant because he wasn't afraid of the challenge, despite the fact that he was up against stars who are not only much older, but had more experience and accolades under their belt. But Edwards didn't care, going as far as talking trash to Kevin Durant, one of the greatest scorers to ever play the game. In one of the plays where KD was guarding Ant, the younger player took on the challenge of scoring against the taller and more decorated superstar. His competitiveness took over, hitting a contested three-point shot over Durant's 7'5" wingspan, talking trash to him as they were going down the floor. Kevin Durant couldn't help but smile about the fact that this brash young player was willing to talk trash to one of the greatest the game has ever seen. Not everyone is confident enough to hit a shot over a future first ballot Hall of Famer while talking smack to them over at the other end. Game recognizes game, and KD recognized that he was up against a young man who had all of the talent and competitive fire to be one of the greatest in the sport. Anthony Edwards is a bona fide star, and it's not just because he's been dunking on heads and talking trash to other NBA stars. We know that Ant-Man has been one of the fastest rising stars in the NBA, putting up stellar numbers while playing on a contending team as the Minnesota Timberwolves' best player. The numbers, on-court spectacles, and charisma are all on point for Edwards, and there's no denying that he has what it takes to be the next big thing in the NBA. But it's not just about what we've seen him doing, because it's also about what the other stars in the league say about him. In his podcast, Paul George talked about how Anthony Edwards has been talking trash lately, and how he isn't afraid of talking down to the older stars. But instead of thinking about it in a negative way, PG believed that Ant was talking trash to the older superstars to show his respect for them. He wouldn't be talking trash to a role player because he doesn't give a damn about them. Instead, he wants to talk trash to the older stars because that's his way of giving them their flowers.
But I think it's more so of given flowers, and he gave the flowers to KD. I think it's more so giving flowers for.
George also gave Edwards his flowers, saying that he's going to be the future face of the league in no time at all. His tenacity, talent, and competitiveness are what fuels his drive to be successful.
They're coming. They're on the rise. Anthony Edwards, I heard him say he'll be the face of the league in about 2-3 years. I think maybe less than that. I just love his approach. I love his tenacity. He's challenging the peers at his age now, and he's going at the veterans that spend 10 plus years in the game. So I love that. I wish we could have heard that banter between those two. I love that moment of KD laughing it off because, AE actually said KD was his GOAT. And so I'm sure for him, that was a special moment to be able to match up with him.
And that was one of the things we saw in Game 4 of the first round matchup between the Wolves and the Suns. The Wolves were already up 3-0 with a chance to sweep the series. The Suns, however, were fighting hard for their lives in Game 4, relying on KD and Booker to try to give them one more lifeline. Ant only had 9 points in the first half, but went on to explode in the second half to send the Suns home. Of course, he had a lot of signature plays in that series, including a block on Devin Booker and a poster jam on Kevin Durant. He knows that he's going to be the future of the NBA, but he wanted to take his place at the top of the food chain early on by eliminating Durant, Booker, and Beal in a statement game. After the win, Ant gave KD his flowers, saying that he was one of his idols growing up, and that he respects and loves what Durant has done for the game. But at the same time, he's not afraid to talk trash to the dude, and is excited about talking more trash to him in the Team USA training camp in preparation for the Olympics.
Man, it felt great, man. I got the utmost respect for KD, man. He comes in and compete every night. I watch every last one of his games since I've been about 5. So, I love that guy, man, and I'm excited to play with him this summer, man. Talk a little trash and let him know I sent him home.
Of course, while they competed hard in that series, the best players recognize when they're up against young talent. Kevin Durant wasn't shy about giving praises to Edwards because he understands that this young man has all the talent and skill to be the next big thing in the league. In fact, he had this to say about Ant-Man.
Ant was saying that he's looking forward to playing with you at the Olympics. What have you thought about his growth and the leap and his performance in this series?
So impressed with Ant. My favorite player to watch.
If you're Kevin Durant's favorite player to watch, you've done things the right way. Anthony Edwards has earned the praise of one of the best players to lace them up, and it's clear that he's already on the radar of some of the top players the league has seen. But the current stars aren't the only ones who have high praises for this young and talented rising superstar. The guys over at Inside the NBA have seen almost every star in the past 30 to 40 years. Guys like Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and Kenny Smith have competed against the best and have been watching some of the more modern players. But it's rare to see them giving the best props to some of the best players of this era. And Chuck wasn't shy about telling people that he sees not only Kobe Bryant, but also Michael Jordan and Anthony Edwards.
When I saw him on ESPN last night with Andy, he said, "I'm just going to kill everything in front of me, man." It reminded me so much of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. They would kill you to win a game. It's not many players in today's game. Everybody want to be buddy-buddy. But man, Anthony Edwards is letting everybody on notice, yeah, I'm not gonna wait for y'all to give me anything. I'm gonna take it all, and I love it.
What Chuck was alluding to was the fact that Ant-Man went out to compete his hardest in that series, wanting to kill the Suns and ending the series in 4 games instead of extending it. Edwards once said that he knew that he had the opportunity to take every win he could possibly get, and that was why he decided to kill the Suns early. Barkley saw that, and he immediately thought about Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant because those guys had the same killer mindset. We've seen a ton of players trying to be Jordan or Kobe, but all of them ended up flat when it came to the killer instinct. That's a kind of mentality that's difficult to develop in the modern NBA, where players all want to be friends and buddies. In Ant's case, he saw every star in front of him as someone he needed to kill on the court to take his place as the greatest. Of course, we know that Chuck played and competed hard against Jordan, so he knows what he's talking about when it comes to Ant-Man's killer instinct. As much as we'd like to talk about how current and former players have been singing praises for Anthony Edwards and the growth he's shown over a single season, one of the things that we've been hearing from him is that he doesn't overblow things. We've seen him hearing that he's the best player in the NBA, and that's simply the confidence and swagger talking.
Garnett, Kendrick Perkins, they have all compared you to the next coming of Michael Jordan. What do you say to that?
I love it. I love that they got faith in me for sure. I mean, they not wrong.
Who's the best player in the NBA?
Me.
If it's you, then who's number 2?
Who number 2? I'm gonna go with Cat.
But one of the things we hear from him is that he doesn't like getting compared to the greats. He knows that he's been hearing the Kobe and Jordan comparison, but he doesn't like taking it to the next level, unlike some of the other players who idolize those 2 all-time greats. Instead, he tries to keep things on the mellow side by accepting that he's yet to accomplish anything in his career. The NBA now has a lot of young guys waiting in the wings to take over the league. We have Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Ja Morant, and Victor Wembanyama. But one of the best things about Ant is that he doesn't like it when people start calling him the future face of the league. Kat, his teammate and good friend, says that Ant hates it when people call him that.
I mean, just like what you just saw, it brings a smile to all of our faces. I think when he's playing the game he's playing right now, I think he's one of the top players in the NBA, and then you mix that in with the charisma and the personality he has, he's a huge boost for our locker room as well. So Anthony Edwards is special. I keep saying it, and he hates when I say it, but he's going to be the face of the NBA sooner than later. So.
Still, he has the confidence to say that he's better than anyone else in the league, and that's something that we can admire from such a young guy with so much more room left for growth. True enough, he hasn't accomplished anything yet, and we're not about to call him the best player in the NBA right now when guys like Jokic, Embiid, Doncic, and Giannis are all still putting up MVP-level numbers. But if some of the best stars and experts all say that he's the next big thing, then we're all on the Anthony Edwards bandwagon.